So I am new to using Uber. I know the app has been out for a long time now, but I always had a car, so I never needed to use one. But sadly my car was taken away to be fixed, and I needed to get to a friend for a few nights. I had bad anxiety, so I was told by my friend, let's call him Joe, to use Uber as they have always used them, and it was always a pleasant trip. Sweet, I thought to myself, downloading the app, totally checking it out to see how it all works. I even got a discount on my first ride. I was happy. So I told Uber where I wanted to go and paid through my card. Apparently that was it. All I had to do was wait in my house and the car would come to me. I got myself dressed, packed my bag and waited outside for the Uber to arrive. One car passed and parked up, while another, a silver Toyota, pulled up alongside me. "Henry?" he called out. That was me. I got up, grabbed hold of my bag and got into the back seat behind his. There was basic small talk between us both, as I really didn't like sitting in awkward silence. But his answers were short and blunt. Eventually I just found it too difficult to keep a conversation going. I knew the roads pretty well and became confused when he took a road that slightly went off track to where my friend lived. Excuse me, doesn't this go in a different direction to my friend's?" I asked politely. I could see his eyes look at me in the rearview mirror before he replied, saying that he just had to stop off at another person's address as they left something in his car from a previous journey. I didn't think too much of it, just made a small little joke to ease the tension as I was starting to feel, and sat back, watching us go from roads I was familiar with to being unfamiliar with, and to finally not having a clue where we were at all. I could see his eyes kept looking in the rearview mirror, and he said he was sorry and that he wouldn't charge me for the ride, saying it was not much further. I just smiled and watched as we started to go down through some country lanes. "Hey, listen, my friend's going to pick me up instead. He's tracking my location. Can you just drop me off?" He just looked at me through the rearview mirror again. I was lying, of course, but I wasn't comfortable and my anxiety was now going through the roof. Something just didn't feel right. "Sure, there's a main road just up ahead. I'll drop you off there." For the next 10 minutes we didn't speak at all, and we did actually come to a main road, but he hadn't stopped. Being behind him, I could see the child lock button, but I could also see a pocket knife. It was hard to move around too much. I could feel his stare on me quite a lot. "So your friend is tracking us?" the driver says. I just nodded and looked around outside. Being late at night, there were virtually no cars outside. Then the man started to become aggressive, saying how I shouldn't have someone track us as that is not right. He kicked up a massive fuss about what I was doing and why I was doing it. We stopped at a red light and he kept on and on at me, screaming and shouting as I saw his hands fumbling around, reaching for the pocket knife. I knew I had to make a move. I lunged forward, reached for the child lock as he flipped open the pocket knife and swiped at my hand. It cut me, but I hadn't noticed it straight away. Adrenaline was coursing through my body now as I flung open the car door and ran for ages. I jumped over fences, knocked on everybody's door until someone had answered. The car spun off down the street and I reported the driver to Uber, said what he looked like, bald, a little overweight and middle-aged. I even remembered the number plate. I also informed the police after giving my statement, and I have no idea what happened to that Uber driver. Joe picked me up after I called him. He was shocked to hear what had happened and wanted to make sure he got justice. But like I said, nothing came of finding out as we were told no more new information. Safe to say I haven't used Uber since. So let me share with you my story of using an Uber. It shocks me to this day as I have been using Uber for a long time. I always meet really lovely drivers who are always friendly and always kind. so I guess you could say I became very comfortable with using them. Probably too comfortable, I guess. This happened back in 2019 now, so it has been a long time since this has happened, but I thought it would be a good to share it now. I lived and worked in London. I have always wanted to live here as I thought it was a great place to be. As I said, I used Uber a lot as I didn't have a car and traffic was bad anyway. My name's Hannah. I'm originally from Spain and I've lived in the UK for 3 years prior to this story. I was fluent in English, so I didn't have trouble understanding and speaking the language. I was at a friend's party. It was getting late and I had to work the next morning. I was tipsy, arranged for an Uber to pick me up and continued to have fun with my friends. I wasn't sure how long the Uber driver was sitting outside, but I was pretty positive I had kept them waiting. I said goodbye to my friends and headed into the Uber. He said what I thought was my name, and I just agreed, really not able to think straight. We headed off through the streets and he seemed very uptight at first, but being tipsy and very chatty, I was able to get him smiling and joking around. I was in the front seat with him as he waved me into that seat. He was telling me about how much fun he used to have and how he misses it. I jokingly invited him to one of our parties one day as he looked young, did look a little bit cute, and he really seemed into it. His name was Tony, and we drove around for half an hour before I started sobering up. I knew it only took around 10 minutes to get home. "Hey Tony, what's taking so long getting home?" I smiled and watched as he looked at his phone and then over to me. He pulled out a pocket knife and put it towards my leg. "We're going back to yours, alright. We're gonna have some fun tonight, and if you're good enough, I'll let you live." His complete demeanour changed as we pulled onto my street. My home was in a block of flats with private parking, but taxi drivers were allowed in as they came and went frequently. The security guard seeing me in an Uber also automatically let him in. "You're a good girl, no fuss, and nobody will get hurt." If I wasn't sober before, I was very sober now. We pulled up in a parking spot and he got out first, rushing over to my door, opening it and getting me out too. We walked close together as he had a knife still out, holding up against my thigh. Thankfully, I noticed my friend coming out on the elevator. She lived in the same block I did, and we always joke around making some kind of funny signals to let the other know we were in trouble, if we ever needed it. She saw me and said hello. I said hey back and pulled on my ear. That was the signal. And I was sure I gave a petrified look as she walked past. I got back to my apartment and let the door look like it had closed, but it hadn't. The Uber driver asked if I wanted to die tonight. I started crying. I couldn't get any words out. But then the police came barging into my home. The Uber driver quickly raised his hands and they arrested him, taking away the knife and making sure I was okay before they took him off. My friend had told me that when she stepped outside the gates, she saw a police officer, waved him down, and told them what was happening. Even to this day, I'm eternally grateful to my friend, and I always spend time with her to see how she is doing.